Hey guys, Matthew here. So today I'm bringing you the ultimate guide to how to get rich very fast in a league. This is going to be that get rich quick kind of scheme, but it really won't because you're going to have to put in the work and the hours. But for the most part, I'm going to give you literally every single tool, every single tip, and every single thing you could ever ask for. Uh, After watching this video, if you still have questions, I'm not even going to answer them because it means you haven't watched the video. Simply put, I'm literally going to say everything. So, with Legion coming out in like a week, I set out on a journey to find basically the most efficient way to get rich early, the most efficient way to get started, with whatever build you want to play. Basically, for the most part, most builds will cost like a few exalt to get really going with all the required uniques, all the good stuff, all that juicy items and all that good stuff, right? A couple exalts. So some people would take, more than a week to actually get like an exalt or two or three. So for most people, after like a week, they'll actually be set and be like, okay, now I'm actually ready to play and have fun with my build, right? After spending like a week. Well, I'm going to be able to take, after watching this video, you'll be able to take that 1 week and actually condense it into like 1 day and actually have the required currency to do whatever build you want. I'm not talking about builds that will cost like 50x, but I'm talking about builds that will require, a few exalts, or maybe you just want a few exalts to start flipping, whatever it is. After watching this video, you'll know exactly what to do to get very rich very quickly. So, how does it start? Well, this whole strategy starts off with your Atlas. Obviously, we don't know what the Atlas will look like in Legion yet, but I will give you an example of um, what it would look like in this league, for example, right? In synthesis event, or in synthesis, whatever. In this Atlas, in this version of the Atlas. So your number one thing, the first thing you'll have to do is figure out what tier 8 map, in my opinion, will be the best to sell, right? So for example, I only have one on my Atlas because I really haven't done anything in the event. Uh, so for example, Waterways. I'm like, all right, dude, Waterways, that's my map right there. Waterways is the tier 8 map that I want the most, either because I want to farm it for whatever, maybe a div card, maybe I just like the layout, maybe I like the boss, whatever it is. I'm like, Waterways is the map for me. Or maybe it's because you think it's going to be the map that will be worth the most in that given league. You have to think about that. In the first hours of a league, tier 8 maps are actually very valuable. They're actually valuable and they will sell, especially in bulk. And if you're going to chain maps like I'm about to teach you how, you're going to get a lot of these, right? So, once you figure it out, all right, this is the map I want. You're going to have to look at the adjacent map as a T7 that can drop it, right? So, for example, Waterways is going to be dropped in Shore. So that's going to be the second question. Do I like Shore? Do I want to run Shore? I think Shore is a good map. I think the density's okay. Sure, I'll run Shore. You know what? Shore is going to be my preferred map. So you know that you'll have to start in this corner to get your Atlas set up, get your Shaper influence set up. As you can see, I literally didn't follow any of these rules. I've been testing this stuff on in different places. Basically, let's just put it like that. Um, so for example, Shore. I'm like, all right, Shore is going to be the map I want to farm the most. So then you'll have to look at basically what T6 is adjacent to Shore. What map can actually drop Shore? So it seems Resonance and Geode can actually drop Shore. So it really doesn't matter at that point, right? Because you'll be getting mostly all the T1 to T6. So you'll want all the T1 maps, right? You'll want all the T2 because more Atlas completion is just better. And T1 to T2 maps are useless and worthless anyways. Same for T3. They're not really worth anything. So there's no point of actually just target farming one map unless there's just one map that you really want more than any other. For example, maybe you want channels. You really want channels because tabula card, so people will be buying channel in bulk, and you know that. Then maybe you go for channel. But I would think that the Atlas completion of just completing all the T3s, considering how many there are, is just going to be better in the end. But you do you. Same for T4s. You'll want to complete all of them. Even if you're like, oh, say, maybe my strategy kind of revolves around Underground C because whatever. maybe you want to have just Underground C, but once again, I'd recommend completing all the T4s, all the T5s, and all the T6s. Oops, all the tier 6s as well. And then the important part is basically the map you actually want to chain farm, which would be your T7. Your shore map, you would want just shore as your T7 map because you only want to run shore because you only want to drop waterways. If you're like, well, you know what, I really don't care about the T7 maps. I really don't care about the T8 maps. I can my build can run any layout just fine. I just want to get as many maps as possible. Then I would recommend you actually complete every single map that is of any tier. You really don't care. You're going to be selling them in bulk anyways. So just go ahead and complete every single map you can on the Atlas. In between T1 and T7. And then if you want to complete all the T8s, have a chance of dropping every single one of them as well, go for it. So once you've set that up, right? So for example, my goal was to farm shore because shore is going to be my main map. All right. Why is T1 to T7 important? Why is T8 important to sell? It's because of the item level. So map tier 7 is the highest possible map tier that you will want to farm for the strategy because it is item level 74, which is the highest possible item level to do the chaos recipe, right? So any map over tier 7 will drop item levels of over 75, and therefore you're not eligible for unidentified chaos recipe anymore, which gives 2 chaos every single time. So this is pretty important to consider. So I'll go ahead and put that in here, for example, and we'll run it. And I'll come and, we'll move on to the second part of how to do this. And it's going to be the second most important, I guess. Well, they're all just as important, but the second part will be your actual filter. So, whenever a rare item drops, you'll see that they don't actually look like what you would consider, the regular stuff on most other item filters. And there's a reason for that. There is a very good reason for that. See, a pair of boots dropped and they're actually purple. That's weird, right? A chest piece dropped and it's like some goldish color. Why is that? A helmet dropped and it's green, right? Well, the idea behind this filter is basically that I went ahead and put every different type of item slots to show up as very different, distinct colors to be able to target farm and target, loot the things that I want. So if I go in a map, right, and I have every item required for a chaos recipe except, say, oh, that's a beast. These actually kind of take a little bit to kill. I don't actually know. Maybe you should consider skipping them. It's whatever, though. So if, for example, I go on a map and I know that I need some gloves, then I only have to pick up the blue items. If I go on a map and I know I only have to pick up, chest pieces, which, well, let's be real, that's not going to happen, but whatever item I know that I need to pick up will have a very distinct color, which allows me to target pick up only the things I need and leave the garbage on the ground. Yeah, I really don't think it's worth killing these. I don't know, though. Maybe it is. So that's going to be the second piece of the puzzle. Actually having a really good loot filter. If we actually get a piece of jewelry drop, I can actually show you what that would look like. There we go. So a piece of jewelry dropped here. As you can see, it was outlined in red, unlike anything else. And it was red, and it also made a sound. The reason is because we actually get really hard cucked by the lack of jewelry. Unlike anything else. Everything else is really, really easy to sustain, The rare gloves, the rare boots, the rare the rare helmets, the rare weapons, all of that is super easy to maintain, while actually, sustaining enough rare amulets and rings and belts, but for the most part, amulets, is relatively hard. So whenever an amulet does drop, we really want to know that it's dropping, and we do want to pick it up. We don't want to be leaving, rare amulets on the ground. Same thing for rings and belts, but mostly amulets anyways. So we're actually going to highlight them really, really obviously, and we'll make sure to never miss any of them. So for the most part, this is a very unoptimized build. We're lacking a ton of damage. We only have level 19 gems, and not only that, they actually have no quality. We're only level 87, but still, this is a breeze. Some moments do get a little bit dangerous, I guess you could say, but that's normal, and that's to be expected given what we're working with. And I'll be going over the items and the choice we make when it comes to items right after this. Whoa, dude, chill. Oh, I didn't mean to pick that up. But for the most part, I'm sure you already understand what this is about. Alright, so it looks like we just might be done here. Okay. So, well, I'm guessing everybody at this point already knew what we were going to do, right? It's the chaos recipe. The unidentified chaos recipe, though, not the identified version. The reason why we're doing the chaos recipe is actually fairly simple. Chaos early in the league are worth a ton because Exiles are not worth much. While Exiles go up in price, that means the value of chaos goes down. So what we're trying to do is maximize how much chaos we can make with the recipe, and by selling maps of tier 8s and higher, basically as fast as possible in a league. So how are we going to do that? Well, it's a big meme, but we're actually going to stack some item rarity. Yup, we're actually going to stack some increased item rarity. Why do we do that? It's a big meme in the community that increased item rarity is garbage. It's useless. It doesn't do anything. But that is straight up false. What item rarity does is whenever an item is rolled and drops, it has a chance, with whatever percentage you have, to drop of a higher tier, right? Well, it's not static and there's diminishing returns. But aiming for 200% is basically perfect. Whenever you have 200% item rarity, you're set, right? So how do we achieve this? Very, very cheap. We grab ourselves an Anvaris, which is about, 80% item rarity, some Orsays of about 50% item rarity, a Winterheart of a 20% implicit, and finally an increased item rarity support, which gives us about 60%. All that together, and voila, we are at, our required 200% item rarity, which means we'll probably be getting about 2 to 3 times more jewelry than the regular person. For the price of basically nothing, because we are not gimping our clear speed whatsoever, considering our damage is basically high enough, like 100% high enough for T7 maps. And guess what? This build, if I just switch out my Anvaris for another Ming's Heart and take out my item rarity for Vicious Projectiles, all of a sudden, I can actually do Aziri. Literally, it's a breeze. So long as you know what you're doing, you don't get hit. Because you will get one-shotted with that kind of life pool. But otherwise, it's a breeze. So you can actually farm Aziri. And everybody knows that Aziri is extremely profitable early. Not only is it profitable because of what it drops, the scepter, the flask, and all that. The flask alone will cover the price of Aziri sets in the first day of a league, because literally everybody needs an Aziri's Promise. So that's pretty good. And everything else you get is basically profit. Aziri is a level 70 zone, which is perfect for the Chaos recipe. And guess what? Every single mob in there is at least rarity of magic. So the amount of rare items you're actually dropping from Aziri is insane. Sure, we're dropping the Anvaris and the item rarity, but it doesn't matter because there's so many magic monsters that we're making up for that super easily. Now, if you're wondering how much does this cost to get started, well, this entire setup, this everything you see here, costs literally under 40 chaos. The biggest part being the Aziri step, from maybe I think I paid 7 chaos. The Aziri's Promise is a few chaos, but like I said, you can farm those yourself. And then the Tabula is the biggest thing for 20 chaos, right? But everything else is dirt cheap. Illini's Glare cost me 1C, Anvaris 1C, Orsays was 1C, Winterheart was 1C, Ming's Heart are 1 chaos each, Maloney's Nightfall is 1 chaos, and then the rare helmet is like 1 chaos. And same thing for the belt. So it's dirt cheap, and it can do it Zeri. It can do up to T7 maps, no problem. You can actually go much higher if you're using 2 Ming's Heart and the Vicious Projectile because your damage is nuts. Uh, but we're not really going to go there because that's not the point. The point is just to maximize Chaos Recipe, and for that you need to be in T7 maps or lower. So, how much actual Chaos can you expect to make with this kind of setup, with the 200% rarity setup? From just the Chaos Recipe, over an Exalt per hour on the first day of a league and even the second day of a league, depending how bad Exalts go up in price. But over 1 Exalt per hour in just Chaos Recipe is what you can expect to make, is what I've tested. Simply put, it's pretty insane. Really, like if you need 3 to 4 Exalts to get whatever build you're planning to go rolling, you do this for like the first 12 hours of a league after leveling up and all that stuff. Like the first 12 hours from league start to 12 hours later, and you're already on your dream build. You're already on that 4 or 5 Exalt, budget build that you wanted to make. Like it's actually insane how much money you can make. Obviously, it's time consuming. It's going to require, micromanagement for the stash tabs and all that. Personally, I was too lazy to remake it, but personally, I'd be using my quad stash tab, but I had to remake it for something else. But I would be using my quad stash tab with the ultimate chaos recipe efficiency, where I basically was just shift clicking and everything would place itself. Because I don't think anything beats that. It's really insane when it comes to how efficient that is. But even just using like regular stash tabs like that and dropping everything in there, I personally would do armor, gloves, boots, and helmets, and then jewelry and weapons in here because we're only picking up 1x3 weapons anyways, which is outlined in the filter, which I will be putting in the description. If you guys want to check that out, or maybe modify it to your liking, to your colors, whatever it is, or maybe modify the currency, what you do want to see and what you don't. For the most part, though, it's showing basically every currency that's worth something on the first day of a league. Because even the really low-ish currencies are pretty useful. Say alterations, you kind of need them to roll your flask and stuff like that. So you'll want to be picking them up, but you may want to stop picking them up whenever you get all the chance orbs for your maps and the flasks, or the alterations for your flasks and all that good stuff. Afterwards, you probably want to stop picking them up because it's time consuming for no reason. Alright, the last thing I want to go over is basically how to get over the hurdle of lacking jewelry. So there's 2 ways to go about this. I'll try to go over them as fast as possible. Basically, what's going to gatekeep you from doing tons and tons of chaos recipe will be jewelry, especially amulets. And like I said, we're doing the unidentified chaos recipe because we're trying to get 2 chaos for every single recipe we do to maximize efficiency. But the reality is, if you have to sacrifice 1 chaos to use an identified amulet, and you can make an infinite amount of them for basically free, then it's actually good to consider that sometimes you'll just actually have to bite the bullet and just do 1 chaos recipe with identified amulets. Why is that? Because identified amulets are super, super, super easy to come by. So for example, I'll go ahead and scar that. Just like if it was a normal amulet that I picked up in a map, right? A normal white amulet. So how do I turn this rare for literally no price, no cost, to actually become usable in a chaos recipe? Well, simple. I just use an essence. All these garbage essences that you'll be getting while leveling, and the ones you'll be getting in maps, which are actually quite abundant when you actually start looking at it, the really shit tier ones, you just literally slap one on, and there you have it. This can now be used in a chaos recipe. What did it cost me? What is that? Muttering, I think, or weeping, or whatever. What's the lowest? Yeah, whispering. A whispering essence of, what was that, anger or whatever, which is worth like, I don't know, one wisdom scroll fragment, maybe, or less, literally worth nothing. And then I can actually use this in a chaos recipe. That being said, it must be an identified chaos recipe, which means I'll only get 1 chaos. So for example, if I was to do this, oops, not that, gloves. and then get 2 weapons and 2 rings and a belt, right? And if I was to actually sell all this, just because that one amulet is identified, I only get 1 chaos. But 1 chaos very early is still a lot better than no chaos because you're lacking amulets. Another thing you can do to actually get an abundance of amulets early is to actually decide on your Atlas strategy based on a divination card called the Lover. The reason for that is that the Lover actually drops in Underground Sea or Maelstrom of Chaos, and they drop a ton. Like, you'll get that card all the time. And what that card does is actually a set of only 2, and it gives you a jewelry piece of item level 79. Well, item level 79 cannot use in the unidentified chaos recipe because that is only from 60 to 74. So what that means is whenever you get that piece of jewelry from turning in the Lover card, it will be unidentified, but you'll probably just want to identify it because at item level 79, there's actually a chance that that piece of jewelry could be worth something. Especially amulets at that item level can actually roll some pretty good mods, so you'll want to identify them anyways. So if you get something good, great, you actually made money. If you don't get anything, you can just use that amulet, if you happen to get an amulet or that ring or whatever, in an identified chaos recipe, just so you know you're not getting just hardcore cucked by the lack of jewelry. So that's the 2 solutions I've came up with. Either you set up your strategy around a map that drops this, which is for the most part just Underground Sea, or you actually use really low tier essences, which you can bulk buy. That's a little bit annoying though. I'd probably just use all the ones that I get while leveling, and all the ones that I get in low tier mapping anyways. Because anything below Screaming, if it's a garbage essence, you can use because it's not going to sell anyways, and you're not going to use it. Let's be real. So that's basically for the guide. TLDR, rush to maps. Set up your Atlas to whatever strategy you want. Choose your favorite T8 and T7 that is adjacent to it, or whatever map you want to farm, be it Channel, Underground Sea, whatever it is. Actually stack some rarity. It's good. Find a build that requires literally just a few chaos to play very quickly, efficiently, and not lack a ton of damage and be able to do bosses. And finally, be efficient with your chaos recipe with a good filter, which, like I said, I will be linking mine in the description anyway, so you can just use mine and modify it to your liking. So that's going to be it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed, hopefully you learned a little something, and that's going to be Matthew signing out until the next one. Peace!